a better question, what do you think the next 4 years looks like?
The biggest thing we need is some rain.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I do think from things they're talking about, we're seeing some input costs could go down.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a local chemical company here that some of us invested in that's out at Reese to make chemicals that we've been just getting from China.
Really?
And for farm
Sure.
stuff. And that's I sprayed the first load of Treflan that was made there, generic Treflan, Trefluralin, the other day, and I was able to tell Secretary Rollins that. But Billy Tiller's kind of heading that up. He's a guy from Beulah, but he farms. He's been a banker. He's pretty innovative, and he's doing all the work. Some of us just invested in it, but hopefully we can compete with these generic prices and be made here and have some assurance of the quality control and what it actually is. And so I think you're going to see more and more of that stuff. There's been so many parts outsourced to different countries. Even the equipment manufacturers, we got this in Mexico, this in Germany, and neither one of them are the same. And and so you're trying to do that. So I do think the next 4 years I think it has opportunities for ag.
The world depends on agriculture, but farming isn't just hard work. It's innovation, strategy, business. This is the Wylie AgCast, where we dive into everything that drives modern agriculture. From the latest advancements in ag tech to the business strategies shaping the industry, we cover tools, trends, and challenges that matter to you. Sit back, relax, and tune in.
I think it has opportunities for a lot of small business people that are entrepreneurs that roll their sleeves up and go to work. There's some things that can come back they could be part of and be prosperous doing it and help our country be prosperous. So, we've our farmers are, to me, amazing. It's I hate the connotation of the dumb dirt farmer. All he is just sitting out there with his pitchfork and most people I know have college degrees or business training, and because this is a big business.
It is.
I mean, and so, but they're very innovative too. And so, just look at. Last year we had a drought in the Midwest and made nearly a record corn crop just because of some genetics and some of the seed. Now we're paying plenty for that,
Sure.
But it does work, and I think if our country needs products, I think we can supply it.
Yeah.
And or we'll figure out a way to do it, no matter what industry it is.
Sure.
I think our heritage is that.
Sure.
As long as we don't lose that.
Well,
So.
Well, I think the turnaround right now that we're seeing will help us.
Yes. Well, in the energy industry, I know they'd like oil to be just a little higher, but they're not worried about just getting shut down right now.
Sure.
And the more we can become self-reliant on our energy, the less we'll be subject to market fluctuations overseas with Saudis doing something or OPEC or whatever. And then, supply and demand will take care of itself that way without having to have tankers lined up at Houston, So, the world is a world economy, but we don't have to let the world run ours.
Exactly.
Is what I say.
Yeah.
And we need to be the leader in a lot of that just because we are the biggest consumer.
Exactly.
And like I say, I think President Trump's approaching all that where he said we just want fair trade. There's no such thing as free trade. There's never going to be free trade.
No.
Because there's always going to be things manipulating it. But at least if you can get closer to fair trade, then all countries can, benefit from that.
Exactly.
China doesn't have the free press like we do. They don't
Right.
know any of this stuff's going on. They know their ships are sitting in the port and those buy it. Nobody's
Exactly.
buying something right now.
Exactly.
And so they're all going, well, what are we going to do? And so there'll be pressure from their people, even though they're socialists, they've still got to take care of them.
Sure.
And or they'll have a revolt they got to deal with, and they'll deal with that in ways that we can't fathom here, but it's a big complex deal. I don't, I hope everybody's praying for our leaders and,
absolutely.
to do the wise thing and probably not everything's going to be the right thing because we're trying to unwind something that other people wound up. So
Exactly.
It's
Well, and we're all human beings, and you can't expect everybody to be perfect.
yes,
So
and we're probably all a little selfish nature, so you have to set that aside when you're working on some of this to try to do the greater good.
Well, sure. Well, I think the intent overall is,
Yes.
bringing things back. And
I think just people in general are just more optimistic now. They're worried a little bit about prices, but then they can go, well, gas is already, whatever, and that's one of my biggest expenses a week. So, but soccer mom feeding her family and getting their kids to practice, they got to be able to afford that, and I think they're affording that a little better right now.
Yeah.
So if that trend will continue, maybe it'll. I don't know. The interesting thing, I don't know how many businesses Amazon's put out, but we've got spoiled to buying cheap stuff from there.
we know it. Well, and see, that was what I was mentioning about, getting us to buy or American made, which brings up the question when you're I guess consuming, what would be a good incentive for you to buy American made versus?
Generally, it's usually the quality.
Okay.
I think. I think America. Usually, our stuff's a little higher, but I think we make it better.
Right.
And it lasts longer. For the most part. How much have you seen people buy something that looks good on Amazon? You get there, it's like a toy piece of junk.
Exactly.
At least if it's made here and you can see it and feel it when you buy it. Then,
Sure.
I think we've got too many regulations in some things, but I do think our products have safer. They don't have anything harmful in them. Like you don't know what's going to be in something made in China.
That's true.
They're toxic things that they use that aren't regulated and stuff like that. And I think especially in our beef production, our USDA is good at monitoring that, and I think that's a lot safer and stuff we're importing. And the chemicals that we don't hardly use pesticides anymore at all.
Really?
Most of that technology is in the seed, so our pesticide footprint on the stuff that we're eating is way decreased from what it used to be. So, but that's a story we don't tell very good as ag. Where they think every chemical's a pesticide. They don't know longer just a herbicide that kills a weed.
Well, sure.
They think it's a poison that kills something in it.
What isn't poisonous?
So, there's but when you've only got 0.5% of the population doing this anymore, it's hard to teach that to the other.
Exactly.
99%. So.
That's really interesting to me because I don't think a lot of people know what all actually goes into your seed as a whole.
Oh yeah, the genetics and and then some people want to say it's monster seed or not. Well, farmers have been doing modified seed. Used to when you caught your own seed and did it, you always caught what looked best and did best, and that's not anything different than what's going on nowadays. That they're using science.
Sure.
And we've learned how to insert genetics for like a BT gene that keeps worms from eating it, and we're not having to spray it with pesticides that are dangerous. And so those things are really unique. I mean, and it's if you go to St. Louis, I think Bear charges us plenty for what we buy, but their research into this and BASF and Corteva and different companies that are involved in all of that, there's a significant investment in that. And are they perfect? No, they're just like any other big corporation. It's not. I can't farm everything as good as when I first started and only had 2 or 3 places, but we try to do a good job on. But
sure.
It's just like anything else. The bigger you are, there's some things that you don't do as well, but the overall deal is better.
Right,
so,
right.
I don't think you can ask a store dealer or anything. Well, was it better when I was one store and I controlled everything? Well, probably.
Yeah.
Could I service people like I do now?
Yeah. No, you can't.
So,
it's hard to be personal.
Just like like when I first started farming, we could keep our little turn rows needy and tight, and and well, now we don't have time to do that because we're just trying to grow the crops. And did that make any money? No, it's a little bit of, but we still do some, but it's not like in the old days,
Sure.
where you had more time to do that. You've had to focus on the profitability side so much.
Exactly.
That some of that's like, well, that doesn't pay, so we're not doing that. You know, so
Yeah.
it's interesting to see. Just like the text dot or whatever. I mean, they used to fix every pothole there was. Now it's like, well, we got to fix this road because it's falling apart. Now it's just got a few potholes. So, you know, everybody's having to make choices.
Sure.
And focus on what needs the most attention.
Do you feel like overall, say you're for the same amount that you were for the same size that you were farming when you first started, versus now, do you feel like you're getting a better production?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the capacity to make better production, but I mean, you know, a lot of my land's irrigated, or it's always been semi-irrigated out here. We just supplement rain.
Okay.
But as long as we get some rain, we can be very productive with some of the technology we have now.
Okay.
I mean, whether it's precision technology and plowing, spraying, planting.
Yeah.
I mean, our planting technology is by far probably one of the biggest increases. We just used to plant all kinds of seed and hoped you kept part of it. Now we're planting, you know, so many per acre.
Yeah.
You know, and so all that's been more efficient and more productive. And, you know, we can, our tractors, like the case tractors I have, they'll figure out where the most efficient spot to run is to burn less fuel. I mean, you know, it's all,
yeah.
I mean, you know, you burn, say you got 8 tractors out there a day and you save, you know, 10 gallons of tractor a day, that's, you know, 80 gallons, and that's, you know, $300 or $400 a day you save just from.
Exactly.
And most of the time it's more than that because, you know, they can burn up to 20, 30 gallons an hour, and if you can cut that consumption in half with the IVTs and things like that. And that technology costs too, but at least it has a way to pay for itself.
Well, sure, yeah.
You know, so I think we're more efficient with what we do. Everything that a farmer does nowadays, he has to get his biggest bang for the buck he can, and whether it's fertilizer placement, you know, seed placement, you know, harvest capabilities, you know, timeliness. It's you know, all that has to be done as good as you can do.
Well, sure.
You know, to have a chance of being profitable. And my granddaughter asked me the other day, she said, how old were you guys cell phone? Because she's wanting one, you know, she's 10. I said, well, I was 37. And she's like, what? I said, no, actually, I said, I was about 30.
Yeah.
When they first came out.
Yeah.
And she just looks at you like,
that's just nuts. Yeah. Can't even believe it.
Know, but she can fix things on my phone that I can't fix. So,
well,
you know, it's kind of,
that's true.
You know, but that's an advantage too, because the technology we have, the younger generation is going to be able to take advantage of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where I kind of have to, you know, people my age make fun because we got the old way here, the new way here, and we had to learn both ways.
Exactly.
And we're having to integrate it. And like my sons, they adapt stuff that they don't even know how we used to do. Like when I, you know, talk about, I mean, just like ditch irrigation or pipe or springs, you know, well, you don't have a pivot or drip? No, we didn't have that back then. You know, my tractor didn't have an air conditioner radio when I first started. I remember when I got a shade, I was really happy that time when I got an umbrella. And you know, they'll look at all these new ones, and I'm like, man, if the radio works and air conditioner works, that's awesome. Yeah. You know, anything other than that's, you know, exactly. I mean, I sat and baked in the sun the first years of my career, especially. You know, and then it's hard for them to believe because they've never known any different. Yeah, exactly. I remember driving a 40-20 and eating dirt all day. I mean, you know, and that's and the engine heat coming off of it.
Oh,
and you had a Motorola AM radio on the fender. That we got that was big time because you had something to listen to besides the muffler. Right. And you know, so the ag has come so much farther away. I mean, I didn't ever pick cotton. I threw cotton back in trailers before, but my dad tells stories about how they let school out to pick cotton by hand, you know, and then,
that's nuts.
And you know, that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, all the little towns used to turn out early and to pick cotton, and then usually at planting time, school was out helping plant. Yeah. And now, you know, we've got cotton strippers that take 12 rows at a time and make its own round bale. Exactly. And that's no telling how many people that would have took to pick that much cotton in a day. And but you know, my dad grew up doing that, and he talked about dragging a sack, and I can't remember. I should have listened to the stories better, but what level was considered good you picked in a day was nothing. I mean, I can go 1 minute and get that
exactly
with the machine.
Sure.
And so we do have some. I don't want to go back to throwing cotton or picking cotton.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's really nice to have air conditioners.
Sure.
Tractor. I mean, and so there are a lot of the tractor I have now will do so much more than it would 37 years ago when I started.
Well,
36 years ago. That's one reason we can be so productive, and we adapted GPS technology when it first came out after Desert Storm, because we run a lot of Trimble stuff, and that was military technology that they were guiding the Patriot missiles with. They could shoot it off in the Gulf of over there and hit a hut in Kuwait. So,
exactly.
So now, but the precision we can plow, cultivate, plant. I mean, their technology has pushed agriculture a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I still think I don't even know how we've made any crops the last few years. It's been so dry, but I think a lot of it's the technology we have now.
I think so. Yeah.
So if we get back to normal rain, we could really turn a crop here and get the whole South Plains to heal up.
Shoot.
But
We'll see.
Yeah. I do think. I remember. Growing up, it rained so much it'd kill our cotton. And my sons can't even imagine that right now.
Yeah.
Because I go, you better be ready. It starts raining. It may not quit raining until the 1st of June. You better get your cotton in, And my oldest son kind of nearly had that lesson the hard way a couple of years ago. But we went over and helped him finish that planting right quick, but it was so dry, and everybody's so negative. He's like, well, I'm just going to wait till the last minute and not waste our time. Well, I said, I've seen it when you wait till the last minute. It rained for 2 weeks, and then it's too late to get it in.
I know. And the moisture's too high, and you can't.
But who wants to go out and just spend that money when it's dry for 50 days?
Right.
So, but you just never know.
Yeah.
What's got to do. I think right now, as producers, we have to do what we do best and try to do it as efficiently as we can and cut the corners we know we can get by with. And then, if the crop's good, then we can add to inputs as it goes along. But I'd be real careful starting out,
Yeah. So with it being so dry, how do you combat that?
Well, it's really, we're in better shape right now. That moisture we got last fall, that kind of hurt a lot of the cotton, that subsoil's still there in my area.
Sure.
And so if we can just get some normal, like we got an inch a couple weeks ago, and our top profile's pretty decent,
Okay.
So if we can just get some normal rain or close to normal during planting time, I think we can get a crop going.
Okay.
And then we've got some underground moisture to carry it a while in the dry spells, because the years we make really good crops out here is when our subsoil moisture is decent.
Sure.
And it's decent right now.
Sure.
So if we got some normal rain, that's the unique thing about the South Plains. Most of our moisture comes during the growing season.
Okay.
So that amount of rain that cotton takes, or milo or whatever, there's not as much corn. There's a lot of feedstocks though now where they're chopping it early, and but cotton can make these genetics. You could have one timely rain and make a good cotton.
Okay.
If you can get it at the right spot.
Yeah.
What's hurt us the last few years, if we've got up to August and had no underground moisture, and it's just burned up when the rain didn't come.
Yeah.
And we've had some of the best looking crops we've had the last 2 years, and in August it fell on its face because there was no underground moisture.
Sure.
So I think that's a big positive for this year, that we've got some underground moisture, and then the big negative is the price.
Yeah.
We've got to get they're still trying to get the Farm Bill passed where it's retroactive for this year, and they feel like as long as they get that done by June, it would be that way. And then, but if Trump can get some success on this and we can recover from prices here, hopefully we get a little rain, and this fall everybody be feeling a lot better.
I hope so. I mean, the forecast is looking like we should be doing a little bit, but I don't think it'll
be. Like I say, it's not a 2011 or 12 dry as a bone forecast. It might be a little below normal, but I'd be pretty happy with a little below normal right now.
Right, exactly.
Instead of just nothing. I mean, the last 2 years we've had a kind of a big rain at planting time, and it hadn't rained the rest of summer.
Yeah.
So if we can get some normal rain through the year with the underground moisture we have, I think we've got some chance to make some crops.
Does irrigating help when it's really, really dry?
Yeah, but you have to concentrate it.
Okay.
To less acres, and then that's a dual-edged sword there. But
Why
our
is that?
irrigation, as long as we get normal rain, our irrigation adds a lot
Okay.
to our yields, and because it gets it by from that till that next rain.
Sure.
You know, and if you can water it and have some underground moisture, get quote close to normal rainfall, we can really make some big crops.
Okay.
You know, and I'm hopeful that's we've suffered enough the last 4 or 5 years that maybe we got one in the cards this year.
Man, I hope so.
But I do think you need to be cautious. You
Yeah.
know, but you know, if we get one going pretty good, we can always add more fertilizer to it and get
Sure,
it
yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Okay.
just keep your weeds under control and conserve the moisture you have, and try to keep it where the crop uses most of it. Hopefully we can get that going.
Yeah.
Now, it's all easy to say, it's hard to do. But
I know.
Because when it does rain, we usually have more weeds too, and we got to spend
I
money
know,
fighting
that's
that.
the-
But if we can get a good rain, I don't mind spraying another time.
Sure. Well, do you
for a weed
ever
flush.
deal with any water conservation rights or
Yes,
anything like that?
I'm on the High Plains Underground Water Conservation District. I'm one of the board members there, so we research all the time how to use our water the most efficient
Okay.
way we can. And LIPA and drip irrigation is that's about as efficient as we can get now. Now we're doing things like Micro-Fertility management, and with the water to get more bang for the buck.
Sure.
So yeah, they're every farmer out there is trying to do stuff like that.
Sure.
Or most every farmer is. So
What's micro-fertility all about?
well, you can like as you're applying irrigation water, you can put spoon feed fertilizer
Oh, okay.
into it so that it get between the water and the fertilizer that you're injecting in the water, the plant has a lot better response
Sure.
to it. And we used to, when fertilizer's cheap, we just spread it out broadcast and probably
Sure,
wasted
yeah.
some of it, But
Well,
now
maybe.
that's the best technology we had in the time.
Yeah.
Now we can do some things with injecting it, and there's safeguards for that, so you don't ever contaminate groundwater. But once you've pumped it and it's in your system, then you can fertilize some of it, and or just like abandoned placements of it, in the soil with fertilizer rigs and stuff like that to make it more available to the crop to use.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the biggest things the last few years has helped is the micro-fertility capabilities that we have with some of the technology we have
Well,
nowadays.
yeah. And I foresee it probably getting even more efficient.
And most
better.
people, are using coulter rigs where they band their fertility in a spot so it doesn't top to the soil naturally, so the plant can have it a little more available. So, and like I said, the genetics in some of these new varieties are really good, So
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well,
everything works good when it rains.
right. I know.
And so
You ever have to borrow from the city?
No.
Do they let you if you needed to?
Oh, I don't know if anybody would right now because the city's trying to keep all their water for the people they have. That's one of the things at the water district we've worked with the state on trying to make sure municipalities have the tools that they need to
Sure.
do that. But that's not really under our regulation. But we offer deals where people can register their domestic wells to protect them from spacing for somebody drilling too close to them, and stuff
gotcha.
like
Okay.
that. So there's a big effort on, Central Prairie's working on a lot of water conservation, plans right now and water supply, in this session, and it'd be interesting to see how his bill gets through, but he's working on it the last couple sessions, but this time he's got a commitment from the governor to develop new water sources for the state, because down south it's grown so much, there's a big need for more water.
And they just had that big rainstorm run through there and
if we get
flooded it.
Places to catch it and use it, that's what you need instead of just running off in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
But what we call the Golden Triangle down there between San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas, down there, there's so many people moving there. The water needs are great.
Yeah.
And they're
Demand's getting
talking
higher.
about diverting floodwaters from some other states to that part of the state to help out. And he's got some really good ideas if they can get it passed and work on it.
What do they do with their gray water? Wouldn't that benefit?
Most of the people put that on their own farms.
Sure.
Yeah, and use it instead of just wasting it. But And then a lot of it, is treated just like here where it goes Ransom Canyon and down that way.
Okay.
It's potable. So there's new technology. There's technologies to develop the deeper water that's salty to clean it up and make it suitable for consumption. So water's a big deal.
Yeah. So the cities, what does the city do with their gray waters? Better question.
Oh, they've got that farm east of town that they
really?
grow
Okay.
alfalfa with it and stuff like that. And all of that's regulated by TCEQ because of the total dissolved salts and stuff that's in the water. It has to be put out and bleached, to get rid of the salts and acids and things like that. So, but the city uses all of theirs for beneficial use, as far as I know, here in Lubbock. And, Anton just put in a new water treatment plant over there, and they've got a irrigation system there where it waters a patch of alfalfa they've got there. So, they try not to waste it. They'll alfalfa will mitigate the salt content and grow in it. So, a lot of that's regulated by the state. And so they have to comply with it to not contaminate nitrates and things like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess I'm ignorant of it, but couldn't farmers in the area benefit off of that too, though?
Some of these small towns like Littlefield used to lease theirs to they called it the city farm, and the people used that water for that. And there's other towns that do that. So there are some that do that.
Okay.
I mean, out here, the city farm's owned by the city of Lubbock.
Well, sure,
but it's on a farm.
Yeah.
That's where they're putting that water.
Okay. So it's not all going to waste then.
No.
Oh, good deal. I've heard that because you mentioned weeds, and weeds have been, the whole company we have here is built off killing weeds, pretty much.
Yeah.
What's in place now that you think is really benefiting getting rid of that problem?
There's some new sprayer technologies like the stuff that your sprayers have on them, like the pulsing technology and stuff like that. I think
the spot spraying?
Yeah, I think that helps with the, spot spraying and just the AIM applications where it doesn't drift. And stuff like that to control drifting like that. That way more of the herbicide goes to the plant. But we do have a problem with herbicide-resistant weeds for whatever reason. But
Interesting.
A lot of it, we just got to do a better job of application. But some of that's been caused by the drought. Because when the plant gets droughty, it won't take things in, and that's some of the failures in the weed control.
Yeah. So weeds are resisting herbicides now, apparently?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
They've been doing that since late 90s, probably.
Wow, okay.
So, they're, a plant's going to try to live and adapt.
Well, yeah.
So, just like anything else. So, they're always having to come up with new formulations and stuff like that, or technologies to combat it with. And, we used to plow all the time, but that's not really good for soil erosion and control and stuff like that. And we have to farm so much nowadays, there's no way you can plow it, or you can spray it way faster. So that's just another economies of scale problem that we have.
Yeah. What's so when you first started versus now, what is your spraying, procedure looking like?
Well, when I first started, we didn't spray.
Really?
We hoed, chopped cotton. We had families that came and worked for me every year, and now that put a lot of them out of. I had some that paid for their kids' college because they came and worked for us every year.
Oh, really? Okay.
And but then the labor cost got so high with that's when the herbicide technology came out, and we started. Well, we sprayed some preventative type stuff to try to keep as many weeds from coming up, but we didn't have the ability to spray over the top of a crop to kill weeds in the crop.
Okay.
When we first started, and but my seed cost me $12 a bag then instead of $400. So
exactly.
But it's changed dramatically on that front. I do think that's what's driven all the production is that technology. The unfortunate thing is some of that's not working as good, and you're still getting charged technology fees for it.
How does a company like Wylie, how do they, in your opinion, help serve you and farmers?
Well, I think a company that I do business with, it needs to be considered like a partnership.
Sure.
I hope, and I do think the owners at Wylie, I bought quite a bit of equipment from him this year, and I've been very happy with it. We've, there's been some attrition in the farm equipment, dealerships around here, and but I think the most important thing is if you see yourself partnering with your customer, and then service. Customer service is really big, because the unique thing about what's going on right now is there are less and less farmers, but they're farming more and more and more.
Sure.
So your downtime is very expensive, and it's just like, we had a tractor that broke down the other day, and they had it back within. I mean, the whole transmission went out, and they had it back within just a few days, and that was awesome. Really amazing to me.
Yeah.
That parts availability, and I mean, everything's been so messed up since COVID. You just don't know what to expect. Can you get a part?
Yeah.
Much less can they get to it to fix it. And so my experience with Wylie is so far their customer service has been really good. They've put their money where their mouth is, and so it's been nice to deal with them. And I really like your company president. His philosophy is that to partner with their customers.
Yes, sir.
And if we can make money, and y'all can make money, that's the way it needs to work.
Sure.
It's just kind of like the tariff stuff, it doesn't need to be all one-sided.
Exactly.
So it's,
exactly.
I need to be able to afford the equipment so that I can make a profit with it, and then that, in turn, hopefully y'all can sell it to make a profit, and then
exactly
between the service and parts and stuff. But I think just partnering with your customers is the best way to look at things like that. And y'all have that philosophy here, and that's good. But I think, like I say, I'm really pleased with what we've bought, and the technology and some of the equipment is more refined or simpler.
Sure.
Maybe not as complicated as some other brands, but every company right now makes good equipment.
Sure.
And I think what makes a dealership stand out is the sales and service, partnership that you have. And that's the biggest difference right now.
Okay.
Because you're having to fight corporate battles too, with
yes.
case to get parts or whatever, and John Deere's having to do the same thing. I mean, Fent's coming in and trying to get aggressive, and they make a good tractor too. But
I know.
The service part I question a little bit until they get more dealers in the area. But y'all have got enough stores. I think your service department right now is pretty good for producers to at least be able to rely on.
Sure.
Because like I say, when we're down, we're down.
Yeah.
And if you're spraying 1,000 acres a day and your sprayer goes down, you get behind real quick if you can get service real quick.
Exactly.
And a lot of the weed spraying is timing. I got to get them in a certain window before they get very big. So.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, but I think as far as Wylie implement, just to, always try to partner with your customers and then have a reciprocal relationship. And I think if you do that, farmers appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I know I do. I mean, as a producer, if I can count on my dealer to be a partner with me, I feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
There, because. I mean, there's certain times a year we got to run. I mean, either harvest or planting time, and because you've only got, if you don't get it planted, you can't make a crop.
Exactly.
And there's only a short time we can do that. And if we're broke down, and it's, Saturday at 6 o'clock, I need somebody to call to get a part.
Sure.
And we don't call anybody for just nothing. But I don't think y'all expect people to do that either. But during the crunch time, so far y'all been available to. Take care of people and
sure.
get them through those times. And then ag, and especially north of here where some of your other stores are, dairy never stops. Cows eat all day.
I know.
And so the service I hear from those customers, they're happy with that. So, but it's just like any other business. We're all just getting bigger, so you got to be able to rely on the people you're trading with to have your back in times.
Sure.
Know they're going to try to do their best to. Because equipment's going to fail.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't matter what brand it is. There's going to be breakdowns. But can they help you get running timely and get back in the field so you can be productive? That's the main thing.
Well, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah. No, I'm
absolutely.
Real pleased with that so far.
Well, awesome. Last thing. I'm going to open the floor and just, is there anything you'd like to share, some last bit of wisdom, or?
Well, I think I caution people, don't get caught up in the negativity.
Yeah.
I think there's opportunities in agriculture right now. I think I'll be smart about it. Just like I've told my boys, and I've told some of the younger guys that call, what do we do? I said, well, tone it down, do what you do best, be efficient as you can, and you'll get through this to a more prosperous time to where I think, because in agriculture we've got good years and bad years, and you've got to save up enough in the good years to get through the bad years. And that's the biggest thing that's hurting people right now. We just hadn't had a good year in a few years, and especially the younger ones are like, I'm barely holding on, I can't. And I'll just say, well, just do what you do, be smart about it. But I do think there's opportunities, and it's a great life. It's stressful at times, but what job's not?
Right.
I mean, so I'm proud that we produce things for people to use, people to eat, people to wear, and it's things people need. I joke a lot of times we're in the wrong business because we produce things people need, not things people want. Because if you go to Cabela's, they don't even ask what it is.
Exactly.
What's this cost? No, I want that.
Yeah.
But a gallon of milk's how much now? I mean, so it's different.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people, it's unfortunate that people we're spoiled in our country because we've always had what we needed.
Sure.
And so we've not always had what people wanted. And so I'm serious about that. I kind of make a joke about it, but I need to grow what people, but two of my boys worked at Cabela's while they were going to college. And, if a guy comes there to buy a fishing rod, he wants a certain one. He really don't care what it costs because he's going to get it.
Exactly.
Or a pellet grill, or and I'm just sitting there, I'm sitting here going, well, I need to get this. I need to trade for a new planter, but man, it's this much, and I don't know. But at the same time, I'm trying to sell my cotton, and the guy's like, well, this is all I'm going to give for it, and you're like, I can't set my price.
Sure.
So that's why I kind of say that we make people things need, not what they want.
Right.
And so biggest thing we can do, we got to figure out how to blend cotton and yoga pants, because all the women wear that now, and they want. I mean, that is a serious deal, though. I mean, that's cut cotton use down some, and keep your head up and don't listen to all the negativity. And if somebody's just being down, just walk away, just go do your thing, and you'll be a lot happier in life.
I'd have to agree.
You sit there and I really respect a lot of the older people, and I'm getting older, but sometimes you can go to maybe a gym where the old guys are hanging out. Boy, you just walk out there and go, why am I even doing this? This is, they can be so negative, but not all like that. Yeah. But that feeds on itself when they start. It does. So I had a banker one time told me, don't go to the coffee shop. You'll be a lot better off. And I'm like, he's probably pretty accurate about that. You can learn a lot of things from those guys, but when they're just being negative, just leave. You know? And so I do think we have opportunities coming in the next few years that will benefit hopefully everyone, but I think especially the younger guys could, because they adapt quick.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't need to be hully-gully and do stuff just to try it. They need to do things that are proven. But I think they'll be in a situation where they can really be productive, hopefully.
Awesome.
I just try to encourage people. We can all get caught up in negativity, and have this whole podcast, if you can just rely on your faith and know all this really doesn't matter in the end.
Exactly.
Just live your life so we can all be together in the world after this. And then if you keep your focus on that, I truly believe if you'll live that way, you'll be a lot happier person, and you can handle these bad times a lot better when I haven't buried a kid. I got held out, but I've lost a brother in a car wreck, and I saw what that did to my parents, and I have a pretty selfish dream or prayer that doesn't happen to me, because I don't know if I could handle it like they did. But lose a crop, big deal. Lose a family member or spouse or something, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And live your life in a way so you don't regret when that day happens.
Yeah.
And just be thankful for what God blesses us with. Try to be positive, walk away from the activity and negativity, and just you'll be happier and everybody around you'll be happier.
Sure.
You know, because nobody likes a grouch.
I know.
And that's and we can all get that way. You know, there's days that things don't go good and you're short fused or tempered and stuff. And I think as farmers, we're probably bad about the, poor parts guys. They're probably, so every time you come in, you're pissed because something broke, and so they're sitting there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna have to order that, really? And so I mean, they hear it all day long, and I feel sorry for them sometimes.
Yeah, it's a rough job.
Yeah, so their PR skills have to be pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And but at the end of the day, when they know that person's doing their best, they'll appreciate that relationship.
Yes, sir.
And you may have some, and there'll be some sore heads that just don't care, but most of the time people are mad at situations, not you. And if you just keep that in mind, you can get along with people a lot better.
That's true.
Yeah. Worst cussing I ever took was about T-ball mom one time, and and I'm just like, man, it really isn't worth getting upset like this.
Yeah.
And there's people out here trying to do their best they can, and maybe you need to pitch in and help a little bit.
Yeah, there you
go.
But she really appreciated that.
Yeah, well, not at the time. She didn't, but her husband called and apologized later.
Oh,
but
good.
He was, I just, life's full of, but that lady, I don't know what she had going on.
Yeah.
But I just got to hear it.
Yeah.
There was something going on in life that made her lash out like that. But, I try not to do that. And
yeah.
I'm not saying I don't sometimes, but I always try to put myself in other people's shoes.
Sure.
And if you do that, you can act a lot better.
Oh, yeah. You never know what anybody else is dealing with.
You don't know what burden they're carrying.
Yeah.
You don't know what, they might just find out they might have cancer or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, everybody's got stuff. I don't care who you are, you got to deal with. But just focus on what's positive and try to shy away from the devil trying to get you to be negative, because that causes misery.
It does. Yeah, it's a cancer.
Yes. That's exactly the word to use.
Yeah.
It's, when that old saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Exactly.
It's really true, and then I always tell my kids it's a whole lot easier for somebody to pull you down than pull everybody up. So just get away from that stuff,
Exactly.
And
well, there's that analogy of when you boil crabs, and they'll keep dragging each other down.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And then they all suffer in the end. But
it's hard to soar with eagles when you're sitting with turkeys.
Right.
So, it's all perspective and how you
absolutely
do stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, with those words of wisdom, now I really sound like an old guy. So that's but I do. Just focus on what's positive and stay away from the negativity, and if it's negative, turn it into a positive.
Sure. Yeah.
You can learn from things.
Absolutely.
I learn when I screw up every time. I'm like, well, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And
learn how not to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's, especially in farming, it's. I think that's what I like so much about it. It's always a challenge. It's never the same challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be. It's dry every year, but
West Texas,
do you have your land prepared? Do you have it ready to take care of advantage of the rain when it comes? Your crop's ready to go in, or are they in, dry planted, whatever? Do your part.
Yeah.
And then see what the other stuff does.
Exactly.
Then you're in the position to take advantage of it when it does. I've coached youth sports a lot, and I tell the kids, I said, I don't care if you're just taking the trash out, just be the best trash taker out of ever was, and then you'll be ahead in life.
Yeah.
So
always appreciative and always respect what you do, and
be appreciative of others.
Exactly.
Like, you hear those stories about where the CEO shook hands with the janitor and knew everybody.
Exactly.
Treat people with respect.
Absolutely. It goes a long way.
Yes.
So, well, Brad, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's worth what you paid me. It was nothing. So,
well,
they're just my opinions. But